Hi, this is Shawnee Lavender, the Conscious Moms Coach, and I'm excited to be here with you today talking about punishments and consequences and other teaching tools that are very common in the dominant parenting paradigm and that I know many of my clients and the families that I support are looking to shift away from and yet still fall back into. So wherever you are on the spectrum of you're already fully committed to not doing punishments and consequences, or you're intrigued by this idea, or you think, wow, it sounds strange, how can you raise children without punishments and consequences? Wherever you are welcome, and I'm glad you're here. So I'm going to be sharing about why punishments and consequences don't lead to sustainable behavior change with our children, and what really needs to happen, what needs to be in place if we do want to support our children in making positive behavior changes. So let me start out by doing some clarification. I want to talk about consequences, because this is a word that you may have used, you may have heard. I certainly see it and hear it out in common usage. And the clarification is that in general, people use the word consequences because they want to feel better about choosing to punish their child. I'm not saying that's you. I'm saying it's a euphemism that we use to soften, to change this idea that what we're really doing is putting punishments into place. And so anything that you deliberately do to your child to make a negative association for them, or anything that happens unconsciously, which I do it too, I'm human. We all fall into those unconscious things that end up being hurtful for our children. Those are punishments. So you can call it a consequence if you want, but if it's something you deliberately choose to do to create a negative, painful association with your child, or it's something that, again, in the heat of the moment, you yell or you slap them or you shame them, those are punishments. So I'm not doing that. I'm not saying any of that to judge us. It's to simply clarify that is punishment. You can call it something else, but it still is punishment. And so that's what I'm talking about. So whatever word I'm using during this video, if I'm saying a consequence or punishment, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about those things we either deliberately do, meaning on purpose, or we react out of a reactive state, and we do that inflicts some kind of pain or discomfort on our children, whether it's physical or psychological. So that's an important point that I wanted to get across and make sure that was clear. So the wide use of punishment is based on the idea that in order to learn, we must have pain or discomfort. So in order for a child to learn, to grow and develop, there must be something painful to make them grow. I don't know about you, but I simply hear that and I think that sounds like a load of BS. That just sounds like one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. You don't cut something to make it healthier. Generally speaking, I don't know, maybe there's some surgical or scientific techniques, so don't follow up with me on that. But in general, that's not what you do. If you want something to be stronger and healthier and more resilient, you nurture it and nourish it. You don't hurt it. That just, again, it's like, duh. Or as my daughter would say, has been watching the Emoji Movie, she might be like, nah, it just doesn't make sense, right? So, but that is, again, that is what our dominant culture is based on, this idea that in order for children to learn, they must suffer some way first. So, besides the fact that I think that's a really stupid idea, which I've already said, I want to let you know that, yes, I do understand that we can learn from painful situations. That's been true of my life. That's true as a parent. That's part of where I take some of my own grist, for the mill, right? That idea of grist from the mill. I take some of my own mistakes and things that I don't do well, and that I, realize after the fact, ooh, that really wasn't the way I wanted to be with my daughter. Yeah, I can learn from those. However, I want to clarify this in terms of the pain part. So pain actually closes us down to learning. So pain is, think about it just from a physiological standpoint, right? Let's say you get a big thorn in your foot or your hand, something, really pokes you. Your body's not going to go, hey, let me open up and let more of that in. No, it's causes that defensive reaction. It causes us to shut down, to protect, to bring in, and to basically mobilize our defenses to be like, that hurt. Again, whether it's physical or psychological, there is that retreat that we do. And in that retreat, we are not going to be learning. That is not a state of readiness for learning. So it's not that the pain is actually closing us down to learning. So it's not that we learn better from pain, it's that pain actually closes us down to learning. Now, our conscious response to the pain can be really great, and that's where we can then really zoom into learning. So that's where sometimes, if a person hits rock bottom in their life, whether it's their relationships or their health, that may be the painful moment where they, it's like all is lost. It's what they're choosing to do from that, though, that is where the learning happens. It isn't the pain itself. It isn't like, oh, when I totaled my car, that's when I started to learn. No, it was, I totaled my car and I woke up the next morning and I saw, my face and the bandages in the hospital, and, I saw pictures of my car and I saw my, family crying and grieving. Those things then might be part of our wake-up call, like, this doesn't seem to be working. What could I do differently? But it's not the pain itself. So again, old idea, doesn't make sense. It's not the pain that actually makes us learn. Second thing I want to clarify about this idea that, pain is where we grow, is that when parents punish and give consequences, or again, punish their children, what we're doing is we are fraying the fabric of our connection. So when we're connected with our children, there's that bond, there's that closeness, there's that trust, there's that openness. And so when we punish our children, we are starting to break that bond. We're not strengthening it, we're breaking it. We are inflicting pain, and our child, again, that response on their side is going to be, ooh, I'm getting back from that. So we're inflicting pain, they're pulling back. That bond is weakening. And that's not going to facilitate teaching. That absolutely is not going to facilitate what you want them to be able to learn. So the third thing I want to say about this idea of pain and growth is that this is my own personal opinion. I think there's enough regular pain in life. There's just things that happen from the physical, you break an arm or you scrape yourself up falling down, or you get an illness, to the psychological and emotional, death of a loved one, divorce in a family, moving away from your community that you really feel comfortable in. All those things and a lot more are regular parts of life for us and for our children. And so for me personally, it's like there's enough pain in life. I don't want to be a source of pain for my daughter. I don't want to be a source of pain for my husband. That just sounds, again, stupid to me. Why would I want to do more to give them more pain? There's plenty of it in their lives already. I don't want to be a source of it. So that's my belief. Again, that may not be yours. For me, though, as the conscious mom that I am and the conscious mom's coach, I really want to support people who are saying, yeah, you know what? I want to be a source of love and nurturance and nourishment in my family, and fun and joy and play. I don't want to be the wicked stepmother who is, inflicting pain on them. That's me. So Take that for what you will. So those are all the reasons why punishment and consequences don't work. It just doesn't make sense. So stop doing it. Don't call it something else and say, oh, well, it's better. Yeah, maybe sitting your child on a stool seems nicer than slapping them or, getting a belt. We could argue about that, but that's not what I'm here to do. My point is that all of those things are not going to serve you or your child in helping them to choose behaviors in a conscious, loving way that they are going to choose on their own without threat of punishment or actual punishment, and also in supporting you to develop a relationship with them where they trust you and feel open to your guidance and want to follow your lead when you say, not this behavior, let's work on this behavior, okay? So what needs to actually be in place for those things to happen? So there's some key principles that I'm going to share with you. I think I've got 5 of them. I'm scrolling through my phone. I'm going to make sure. So the first one is that when you want to, and I'm going to use some fingers here a lot because I use some words that that's maybe the word we use, but there's a judgment implied. So I might use the word misbehavior. I don't think of it as misbehavior. I think of it as behavior that we as parents don't like or don't want to see more of. So just know that when I use that term, that's what I'm meaning. So when your child misbehaves, one of the first things you want to do to be an effective person who helps your child to change their behavior is you want to understand what's going on that behavior is happening. So again, old style was just stop that behavior. That's not right. You don't do it. And maybe some consequent punishment that follows along to make sure they understand that you just can't do this thing. If you as the parent, though, don't understand why that was the behavior that your child either consciously chose or that was their reaction, their automatic reaction in the moment, you can't teach them very well. So it would be like the example of, let's say your daughter hits your son and you just say, stop doing that, don't do that, or you punish her for doing that. Well, that's not going to help her. You want to learn from her and with her, what was it that made it for her seem like that was the best choice for her in that moment? Or again, what made it that she was in such a reactive state that in her upset over whatever was happening, her choice was to hit? That's one of the things you need to have in place. You need to know what the heck is going on. So that takes work. That takes some time, that takes some listening, that takes some conversation. So that's the first thing that you want to make sure you have some understanding of what's going on. Not what you think's going on, not what you assume's going on, not what went on yesterday. I mean, there may be some patterns, but you want to really be aware of what is happening in this moment. What happened in this situation that helped create what happened? So the second key principle that you want to have in place is that your child needs to feel safe enough to learn from you. I'm going to repeat that. Your child needs to feel safe enough to learn from you. So punishments are actually the exact opposite of what you want to do, because when you're punishing your child, you're actually making a wall of resistance in your child pop up. Because think about any time somebody has punished you, you don't have these warm, loving feelings like, oh, that was so nice of them. I so appreciate them. No, you don't think that. Nobody in the history of humankind has really ever thought that, because that's not the way it works. So punishment is only going to further separate you. And so if you're wanting your child to say, gee, Mom, that sounds like a great idea, or hey, Dad, that makes sense. Thanks for sharing that with me. You don't want to punish them, because that's not where they're going to go. They might mouth the words and go through the motions, especially if they've learned how you work, that's what they're going to do, especially as they get older into teenagerhood. They're going to put on a good show, but they're not going to be listening to you. Absolutely not, because you haven't earned it. You earn that right to be their teacher by being somebody that they feel safe with. Okay. So the third thing, this is related to the second, is that your child needs to be in a state where they are ready to learn. Now, usually what's going on when we end up punishing our children is that things are getting tense, right? It's not just some boring situation where we're like, yeah, go to your room, right? It's maybe that happens in some families, but my experience is that's not what's happening. Voices are getting raised, tempers are big, our energy is not in a positive place. We're worked up, and our children are generally worked up. So when they're worked up, and when we're worked up too, but in that worked up state, we are in a brain state that is not conducive to learning. That's not what that brain state is about. So when we punish, we are actually exacerbating that stressed out brain state. And so we're making it less and less likely that our child is going to actually get what we're attempting to teach them, because we're further stressing them out and putting them more and more in a reactive brain state that doesn't learn well. So again, it's like, why would you do that? You're just making your job harder. I mean, if you want to make it harder, go ahead. But my experience with parenting and the people I work with is there's plenty of challenge in parenting inherently. You don't need to make it harder on yourself. You're not getting a gold medal for, doing a 500-pound parenting day compared to 100-pound lift parenting day. There's not that. So don't make it harder on yourself, nor harder on your child. The fourth thing, should have numbered these on my notes. The fourth thing that you want to make sure is in place is your child needs alternative skills and support in using the skills. So often, especially when we're in that punishing mode, we're very much in the don't do. We're in the restrictive part. Don't, bad, wrong, because we're in that reactive state. So we're trying to cut something off, stop it, prohibit it. In that state, as you can imagine, especially young children, they're like, it's not like they've been around 25 years and have lots of ideas. Well, let's see, let me go to option number 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. They don't have that. So they need our support to actually know, okay, well, what are some options, Mom? What can I do besides yell? It's not like they have that off the top of their head. So they actually need your support to learn some alternative skills and then practice them, because it's not, again, like you just give them a list and say, here's 5 things you can do as an alternative. Help them know what those look like, what those feel like, what they sound like. So you want to role play with them. You want to role model for them. That's one of our hardest things as parents, right? We role model what we're asking our child to do. So you want to help them know what to do in a situation, not just what they shouldn't do, but what to do. And so you want to be able to help teach and guide and go along that learning path with them, knowing that they might start out with simply, okay, if their go-to response or reaction is to hit when they get upset, then maybe their first learning is to not hit. Maybe they're not going to use their words yet. Maybe they're not going to be able to practice empathy yet. If they can simply go to that first step of, let's keep our hands to ourselves. Great, that's brilliant. That's step 1 for them, and that's wonderful. So let them learn in steps. So don't expect for them the world just with one lesson. And we sometimes do that. So be mindful of it's show them what to do, help them learn to do it, and give them practice in doing it bit by bit by bit. The fifth and final thing that you want to keep in mind when you're thinking about moving away from, not when you're thinking about, when you're moving away from punishments and consequences, is your child needs time and success to really build momentum. So it's related to what I was just talking about. So they might have one moment or one instance where they get part of the learning and they're like, oh yeah, I did that. Well, don't take them necessarily to step 2 or 3 then. It's like, great, that's awesome. Look at how you used your words today. Or I appreciate how you didn't slam the door on me, is what you say to your teenager. You're acknowledging them for where they're at. And then it's, okay, what's next? But also it's, Let's do that some more. Let's get even better and better about that step, because then it's going to come, step 2 is going to come naturally. It's not going to be something that feels hard for them each time. It's like, oh, I refrained from hitting. Whew, I did that. And now I'm actually calming down. And now I know what I want to say. You know, it's like they build, their success is going to build on that success. So you want to acknowledge them, acknowledge their efforts, and give them those opportunities to see how they're already starting to change into a more positive set of behaviors. So the final sort of caveat thing I want to say is, remember that your child's age and development, among many other things, are going to impact their ability to follow through on what they've learned. So just like with you and with me, on days that we're super tired and maybe there's other stressors in our lives, we may forget 20 things that we know, and we may revert to some of those less healthy behaviors. So give your child that same grace, like, yeah, there's a bunch of circumstances that they're dealing with. So even though they might have been making progress towards a new set of behaviors, that doesn't mean they're going to do it all the time. And so for me, what I want to invite you to do in those moments is be gentle with them, be gentle with yourself, and help them reset and see, oh, okay, that's okay. Yeah, yes, you forgot to do that. Or, you know, you were really upset and, you know, you hit again, or, you know, you cussed at me, or whatever the thing is that they're doing. So you can acknowledge it. Don't belabor it. Just, yeah, that happens. That's what happens sometimes. We're human. And then, like, start over. Okay, so yeah, let's remember. So what are some of the things we can do? Oh, this and this. Great. You know, they've learned it, so you don't need to go into big detail. Just remind them, hey, let's do this. And is there anything else I can do to support you? You know, acknowledge that there was some reason that things went off the track that time. They don't need to be punished for it. They don't need to be scolded or lectured. They need support, just like we need support. So really, going back to this idea about the pain is where we learn, it's not that. In fact, I would say that really where we learn best is when we're inspired and we're on fire and we're excited and we're like, wow, this is cool. What about this possibility? Because then we are like this open sponge. We're so receptive and we want to learn. We're like seeking it out. So that's what I want for you and your children, is rather than this idea of I've got to punish and put a pain piece in there to make this negative association with this behavior that just happened. No, leave that behind, because that's not where the best learning happens. The best learning, the richest and most self-directed in terms of making it easy for you as the parent, you want your child to be like, yes, tell me how. I want to know more. You want that person who is so excited to be a student, so to speak, of, yeah, new way. I love it. I want it. Let's find it. Let's learn it together. And that comes from that place of safety, that place of grace and forgiveness of, you know what? Yeah, learning is tough sometimes. And so when we really envelop our children in this idea of like, yeah, we're doing this together. It's hard sometimes being a big sister or a little brother, or, you know, a student at a school, or a friend, or a daughter or a son. When we acknowledge that, when we're really in that place of like, you know what, you're into this big thing and it's amazing and it's so hard sometimes, and I totally get it. And I'm here with you and we're going to learn this together. That is where you're going to find the magic. You're going to find that your child, not every moment, I'm not saying they're not going to be like, you know, grumpy at times. I'm saying though, in general, they're going to be like, this is fun. Yeah, I made a mistake, but it's cool because I'm learning. That's that growth mindset. That's that openness to exploring and being curious about life and having the courage to move through those bumpy, icky parts. That's what you want. And punishments and consequences will never do that. They will always, in fact, lead you totally to the opposite. Shut down your child to learning, create a rift in your relationship that I know you don't want, and inhibit your child's ability to learn, your ability to be an effective teacher. And so you want to create a whole different environment for learning and growth. And so if you want some support in that, let me give you a few things you can do to support yourself, because I get that it's challenging. Again, I totally get it. I do this for a living, and there are a bunch of times every day that I'm like, oh, dang, I missed that piece and I could have done it this way. That's just the way we are, right? So let me give you some ideas for yourself as you're making this journey to parent in a more conscious, compassionate, loving way, and move away from these old ideas that it's the best that our parents knew how to do, because that's the data they've had, that's the understanding of humans that was there at that time. Now we know a lot better. We have a lot more research, a lot more data about what really works and why it works and why the old things don't work. So here's some things you can do. You can, of course, follow me here on Facebook. You can follow me at Shawnee Lavender Parent Coaching. You can watch my videos. I'm here almost all Thursdays, somewhere around noon Eastern time, US. So you can do that. You can make sure you get notified when I'm live on Facebook. You can, of course, like my page and follow me. You can join my Facebook community. It is called the Conscious Moms Circle, and there is a link somewhere on this post in Facebook, so you can join that community. It's moms and dads. I'd say, you know, mostly moms, 3,000 plus moms and dads from around the world who are on a conscious parenting path. So there's a lot of great peer support there. You can come over to my webpage, ShawneeLavender.com, and sign up for my e-newsletters. I send those out about once a week, so you can get that, not only get videos like this and parenting topics, but you can also get special offers and learn about classes and coaching and programs that I do. Final thing I will say about that is I also do one-on-one coaching. So if you ever want to talk to me, if you're serious about, gee, you know what, I need some support in making these changes because it's not the way I was raised, it's not the community of support that I have, and it's really important to me to do it differently, you can reach out to me on my website and set up a complimentary session to talk with me. And final thing I'll say is some of you are already watching this on YouTube, but I do have a YouTube channel. So you can look me up there, Shawnee Lavender Coaching, and you can follow me on YouTube. And when my new videos get posted, you get an update directly from YouTube. So those are some ways to connect, stay connected, support yourself in the conscious parenting path and on that journey to parent in a loving, compassionate, connected way with your children, and have a lot more fun and ease in everyday family life. So I'm Shawnee Lavender. I'm the Conscious Moms Coach, and thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Take care. Bye-bye.